Hey guys, welcome to a new video. In today's video, I'm going to be creating a video about how to hire virtual assistants for print on demand and everything in between, from finding where to hire these people to getting them to work for you for a long time, having a profitable return at the end of the year, and how to handle your virtual assistants. Basically, I came up with a long list of questions here that I could potentially answer for you guys for this video. And I'm going to be as thorough as possible, answering every single potential question around having virtual assistants. I want to be clear. When you have virtual assistants, you do not have to be rich by any means. You don't have to make a lot of money. You're just hiring somebody to help you on the workload. And ideally, the work that they're putting in is going to pay itself back. All right. So to set the stage, I'm just going to be giving you kind of like a quick introduction of how things went for me. And so pretty early on in the print-on-demand space for me, when I was doing my 60 designs a day, every single day, I was getting to the point where I was making a decent amount of money to where I could actually hire someone to help expand my growth. Not necessarily take weight off of my shoulders, because I still had certain requirements on me to keep working, but I did want somebody to help me expand. And the first person that I hired actually still works for me till today, and she's great. She does a phenomenal job. But anyways, to the point is that, I wanted to expand. So what I did was I waited till I had a certain amount of money, and I took that percentage of money and I started doing my research as to how I could hire for people for print on demand. Now, to bring things to reference, I do have virtual assistants online that work for me in other areas way before I ever started print on demand. So I had some experience with hiring people, and I'll kind of break things down. So the first place I ever looked for virtual assistants was actually Indeed.com. But once again, this was way before I knew anything about who to hire or what country to go to or anything else like that for hiring. And it was honestly not a great experience. So with Indeed, you're hiring people pretty much in the United States. That's not a bad thing, but you have to remember the cost is going to be a lot. Typically these people at the time, this was way before, like I said, I started print on demand. These were writers and people who can work on my websites and things like that. And they had a lot more experience. Now, something you want to keep in mind is the more experience someone has, the more you're going to have to pay them. That's just the way it is. And depending on what country that they come from, the more you have to pay them as well. That's kind of why I recommend working with people in the Philippines specifically. And like I said, we'll be answering a lot of these questions as we continue. But in the Philippines, and the reason why the Philippines is so amazing to hire people out of, is I actually, the price is, first of all, really good. But the language... the language barrier is almost non-existent. And what I mean by that is, if you hire people from India, for example, the cost is almost the same between hiring people from the Philippines or from India. But I find that when I'm working with people from India or Pakistan, there is a language barrier. Like when I'm trying to say certain things, it's being misunderstood, right? And obviously with print on demand, the English language is a very big part of your success, right? You have to know how to use certain keywords. And more importantly, when I'm your boss and I'm trying to explain to you something, you have to understand what I'm trying to say and how I'm trying to teach things. And that brings me to teaching and training. So let me explain. So with my virtual assistants, all of them have access to my courses that they're working on. So for example, if somebody's responsible for taking designs and uploading them to Redbubble, that's their job, then they have to know about tagging, they have to know about titling. So what are they going to have access to? The Redbubble SEO course. And I actually require them to not only study the whole entire course, but every day before actually work, they have to watch 3 to 5 videos a day and report back to me and tell me what they learned. Okay, so they have to watch 3 to 5 different videos, even if they watched them before. It doesn't really matter. And the reason why I do that And the reason why I'm so specific about training is because the more you can train your virtual assistants, the better they'll get. Okay? And when you want certain things done, they'll do it. They'll do a great job doing it. So training is extremely, extremely important. And what I also found is that systems and procedures are extremely important. What are systems and procedures? It's basically just a fancy way for saying organization, right? When you're organized, your virtual assistant knows what to do, how to get access to the work that they have to do, and how they're going to set things up. It makes life so much easier. And I'll give you a really, really big example. The tools we use a lot of tools, okay? So the Redbubble, for example, Rocket Tagger, all right? So this tool is a tool that, like I said, I think I said this in other videos, but has contributed to thousands of dollars, literally. I'm not even joking, but thousands of dollars, excuse me. The reason why I say that is because you are hiring people from the Philippines. English is not their first language, okay? So when English is not their first language, even though they have great, amazing English language speaking, their ideologies might not be the same. So when you're telling them to tag for a certain design, they might not have a good idea of coming up with certain tags. This is why, for me, a tool like this is essential. They also have to know how to use it, right? So that comes into the training aspect. You have to create, well, you don't have to do anything, but I'm saying what I did, all right? I created videos to show them how I did, and I actually used my YouTube channel to just show them what I was doing, right? And something that I want to say is the place or the person who taught me about like hiring virtual assistants and things like that, I have to shout him out. His channel doesn't get enough love, is Nate Woodbury. So Nate Woodbury, I think his oldest YouTube video, I think it's like over 10 years old. Yeah, 12 years old, right? And one of his videos, like I think like 8 years ago or something like that, was about how he hires people from the Philippines. I don't even know if he still has it on. Like I don't remember. He changed his channel pretty dramatically over the years. But I remember 8 years ago where I saw his video. I was looking for how to hire virtual assistants in one of my businesses, my very first business, and making life easier and, things like that. And he recommended the Philippines, and he kind of explained why. And I actually didn't hire people from the Philippines originally. I hired all kinds of different people from all different walks of life. But then I found through overtime and a lot of mistakes made that people from the Philippines really do a phenomenal job. So shout out to the Philippines. But anyways, that's not the point. I just wanted to shout him out because he does talk about that. Even though he kind of teaches people how to grow on YouTube, he basically, that's where I got that information from him. So I needed to shout him out there. But anyways, back to what I was saying. So training is super important. You have to figure out how you're going to train your virtual assistants. I tell you guys, since you guys watch the channel, if you're going to have virtual assistants, you're going to make them upload on Redbubble, you're going to make them title your designs, you're going to upload them to Zazzle, whatever the case may be, you can hook them up with the courses that I have. I really don't mind. If you're a student of the course, just give it to them. No big deal. They'll probably going to have to sign in with your login information, but you could do that. It's not a problem, right? So that's just a little FYI there. But back to what I was saying. So training is important, right? And you're going to have to, like, everybody listening has a system on how they upload designs to Redbubble, how they tag, how they do Zazzle, how they do Etsy, how they do whatever. So if you're looking for a virtual assistant, you might want to help them, you might want to explain to them thoroughly in video form, and you're going to have to really beat it into them, reiterating, telling them, helping them through this, really explaining to them what you need over and over and over again. It's not going to come easy. Most of the people that are going to work for you have little to no experience in this field, which is print on demand, which is okay. This is easily a trainable talent. It's not something that's too difficult to acquire, okay? So it's super simple. Now, the way that I pay my virtual assistants is through just a guaranteed payment every month. I know somebody in the print-on-demand world who doesn't give them a guaranteed payment. He gives them a percentage of what they earn. I don't do that. What I tend to, I don't know how he does it, because I don't know how he makes it work, put it that way. Because for me personally, when I talk to them, they just want a guaranteed payment, a guaranteed paycheck. Now, to put things into perspective, I think the salary, the average salary for somebody in the Philippines is like $500 for a full-time working individual. I pay my virtual assistants anywhere between 400 to 500 part-time work. So it's actually a pretty good deal. And they like it. They don't have to, go to an office or anything like that. They're working from home, and their schedules are relatively flexible. They have 24 hours to complete the tasks for the day, and they get the job done. So let's kind of talk about how I break things down with my virtual assistants. I never put one virtual assistant responsible for multiple things. Meaning, if I have somebody, if I need a job that has to get like a whole bunch of designs need to get tagged, that's one job. If I have a bunch of designs that need to be created, that's another job. If I need somebody to download a bunch of designs from the Unlimited tool, or a bunch of images from the Unlimited tool and convert them into paintings or whatever the case may be, that's another job. So these virtual assistants, right, they have a certain set of jobs, and that's it. They'll never mix. Like the next day, they won't have to do something completely different. The reason why I do that is because the person who's responsible for tagging, they're going to get better over time. They're going to learn more inherently, and they're just going to get better. Their quality of work is just going to get better unconsciously. They're not even going to mean to do it. It's just going to happen. So I always for example, I have a person who's responsible from taking the designs from the first person and uploading them to Redbubble, okay? He also uploads to Zazzle. He understands that there's two different ways to tag, right, on Zazzle and on Redbubble. They're not the same platform whatsoever because they don't have the same algorithms, and he does a great job of it. He wasn't as good in the beginning, but he had to learn, right? And so that's kind of the concept. And he's been tagging for, many months now working for me. So I'm not going to just switch up on him, and I'm not going to say to him, okay, now you're going to be the one creating the designs. Not going to happen. He's going to stay doing what he does because that's what he has the most experience with. If one day the guy who creates the designs doesn't want to work for me anymore, that's fine. But I'm not going to just have him, the tagger guy, fill in for the guy who creates the designs. Not going to happen. All right. So I created this question list that I could go ahead and answer all these questions. But before I begin with that, I just want to talk about where I get my virtual assistants from. So in the very, very beginning, I used to get them from Indeed. But Indeed is not the way for me. Not at all. Terrible experience with Indeed. They're just, honestly, it's just not my vibe. I then went over to Glassdoor, and Glassdoor actually had some good virtual assistants for a little period of time, but not in reference to print on demand. The pricing for Indeed and Glassdoor was really expensive because if you specifically target the Filipino market to work for them, they're charging you almost American salary prices. So for the cost of one person in America, you can hire 5 people in the Philippines. So it's not even ideal, right? So what I do instead is I have there's actually a certain group of websites. It's not just one, but it's a certain group of websites, and I'll leave them in the link in the description. There's more than one where you can hire people from Philippines for Filipino-based pricing, and there are people on there who will work at different price ranges. Now, what I do is I don't go for the people who are necessarily experienced. I just make sure they speak good English, right? And you can tell by their profiles, and I put the listing up, and then people apply. And what they do is they select how much they prefer to work for. So some people prefer to work for $5 an hour. Some people prefer to work for $2 an hour. Some people prefer to work for $1 an hour. Now you might say $1 an hour, what is that? Well, if you do the math on that, $1, if they're working 5 hours a day, right? Let's just say for a week. So let's just say 6 days out of the week, 5 hours a day, that's 30. So that's $30 a week. That comes down to $30 a week. That comes out to $120 a month. That's a quarter, right, of roughly what I would pay someone, right? So that's just a little FYI. So in the 5 to 6 to anywhere from 10, let's just say from 10 on the really high end, which I don't really pay people 10, but anywhere from $4 to $6 an hour works well, because if they're working 5 hours, etc., it kind of gets the job done. Now, the way I do it is I don't pay them based on time. I pay them based on getting the job done. So with the virtual assistants, I say, okay, this is the work that you can complete, and this is the work based on 4 hours of work or 5 hours of work for the day. If you want to finish the job and get it done early, go ahead. But what I don't accept is lower quality work because you want to get finished early. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a screen recorder on. So this might sound annoying to some people, but this is just how companies roll. And so I have to follow suit. I have to do the same thing. Basically, there's this app that they're going to install on their computer that comes with the website that you're paying for. Because, by the way, in order for you to even hire these people or get access to their profiles, you have to pay the website. The one that I use, I pay $99, okay, to get access. And then I get access to all of their profiles. And within that month, I'm going to get, hundreds of people applying to work for me. So I'm always going to have them on the roster. I'll always connect with them. And then I don't have to pay that $99 fee anymore. And it's really not that much, right? Because you got to keep in mind, if you're going to hire somebody from Glassdoor, from LinkedIn, from whatever, you're going to be paying $3,000 a month, $5,000 a month, just to hire them to work for you. And trust me, they're not as easy to work with, right? So, I find Filipino people very easy to work with, very nice people, very kind, and genuinely they want work, and they're very appreciative. They come from a poor country, generally. Of course, there's people who are rich in the Philippines, but there are also a lot of poverty. And for them, finding work is a blessing. And it's a very heavily religious country, with a lot of Christians, a lot of Catholics over there. And, they find it like a blessing. They think of it as a blessing. So they're very happy to work. But anyways, the point is that I don't know where I was going with this. But basically, yeah, it creates great options for everybody, especially it's low payment for you. So you don't have to pay that much. So I'm going to go through and kind of fast fire these answers and try to finish this video for you guys as fast as possible. I don't want to extend this for too long, all right? So, choosing virtual assistants. Where do you find the virtual assistants? Where do you find and hire virtual assistants? So, like I said, I used to use Glassdoor, used to use LinkedIn. Now I use a collection of websites, but specifically they're all in the Philippines. And I don't know if I said this already, but the reason why I hire Philippines versus other countries, I've tried other countries, but for the cost and the experience and the quality, Philippines is the highest, and I'll explain what I mean. It came down between Pakistan, India, and Philippines. They're all relatively the same price. Pakistan is a little bit cheaper, but they're all relatively the same price, okay? But Philippines was much, much higher quality of work because it was a lower language barrier. They understood me more. Like, if I'm speaking to someone in India, when I say something, it's not really understood a lot of the times. So it's a much larger or a much bigger language barrier, and it's harder to communicate. So if I give them one of my courses, for example, when I'm explaining something, it doesn't fully translate in Indian or in India or Pakistan to somebody who's learned how to speak English over there. But in the Philippines, they completely understand what I'm saying, and it makes life 1,000,000 times easier because every single time I have to communicate with a virtual assistant, you got to realize that's not a 2-minute conversation. It's usually like 10, 20, 30-minute conversation. So you got to think, if you have more than one virtual assistant, that time really adds up. And especially in the beginning when they're asking questions, it's like the first couple of months, they're going to ask a lot of questions. They're not going to really have their full handle on the job. They have to, kind of learn these things. So, Philippines, place to go. And I'll leave, like I said, the links in the description where you can access the places that I use to hire virtual assistants. What qualification or skills do you look for in a VA for POD tasks? So for print-on-demand tasks, you got to think it's relatively easy. I'll just kind of line up for you the different tasks we have. So one person is responsible, for example, for downloading images on the Unlimited tool. On the Unlimited tool, as a frame of reference, guys, there's millions upon millions of images. So it's never like we're gonna run out of images. It's the tool, you can get it from Bots and Apps. I'll leave a link in the description, by the way, to all the tools. Like I'll put a little headline that says tools, and I'll have a list of all the different tools my virtual assistants use. Because I don't use all the tools here for virtual assistants. I only use some of them. All right, so the Unlimited tool, for example, there's a guy who's responsible for downloading these images and sending them over to the person where they either need to be uploaded or the image needs to be changed. So I'll explain. So let's just search the word cat here, for example. Okay, this is what his responsibility to do is. He'll search the word cat, and he'll download a bunch of these images, right? And let's just say he downloads, for example, this image. Okay, so he clicks on it, waits for it to download, he downloads it, opens it up. Make sure the image is good quality. He checks the sizing, okay? Sizing here is 3,122 pixels by 2,999, which is pretty decent. We would actually want that a little bit bigger, maybe about double or triple the size. And if it just so happens for the day that the job needs to be, turned into a painting or whatever the case may be, like I said, I have a list of different tasks for each an individual. They'll take it, they'll put it in a software, they'll turn it into a painting, or they'll directly upload it to a site, etc. So he'll take those photos, he'll pass it on to the second person. Second person will then create will do the SEO research on the titles. Okay, copy the SEO titles. The image is then handed over to the third person. Third person will take the tags to the right platform, and then upload it, okay? So the uploading person has no experience with the SEO. They're responsible for the tags. Now, tags technically is SEO, but when I say SEO, I'm talking about title SEO. So they don't worry about, the third person doesn't worry about the title SEO. They're responsible for the tag SEO, okay? So the tags. And they're the tagging experts. The tagging experts get the tagging tools, okay? The SEO, the people who do the titles, they get the title tools, SEO tools, things like that. Then I have what I call the social media people. So the social media people, it's really just one person, but social media people they're responsible for Twitter and Instagram automation and also automation on other platforms. So, for example, they use the Redbubble Favorite Automator. I have a single person that while they're waiting to create content for the Instagram and for the Twitter, what do? They turn on every single store we have individually. They run through the Redbubble Favorite Automator tool and go favorite a bunch of tools. I've already talked about, by the way, the benefits of these tools, so I'm not going to necessarily explain them here, but I'll have a list in the description box down below of every single tool we use. Same thing with the TeePublic tag tool. I have a person who's responsible for tagging on TeePublic. They're going to take the design and they're going to take the title information, use the TeePublic tagging tool, and they're going to go ahead and tag there. And mind you, like I said, all of them have access to these courses. So they know exactly what they have to do. They've had the right training, and they're also responsible to watch some videos, 3 to 5 videos before the actual workday begins as like a kind of like a refresher, okay? So that's kind of a little FYI right there. So how do you ensure, what skills or qualifications do I look for? So the skills I'm looking for is just basic. Are they coachable? Are they learnable? Is there a low barrier to entry in terms of language? Can they speak English well? Can they type well, right? They're going to communicate with me. When I say, hey, hello, how you doing? I saw you applied for this job. Are you interested? They're going to apply, and they're going to reply, and they're going to talk to me. I could see how they can speak. I've said this before, but if you have the ability to just watch videos, understand what they're about, speak English pretty well, type English pretty well, use some basic software tools, you're good. You're ready to go for print on demand. You're going to do well. All right. So as long as you have those abilities, you're fine. And for the virtual assistants, that's exactly the case. We provide the training. So I'm not looking for any kind of skills up front other than the basic necessities: communication, coachability, learnability. Believe it or not, I've had virtual assistants before that were not coachable. They did not want to learn. They were not interested in learning. They wanted to do things their way. I couldn't work with people like that. You know what I'm trying to say? So keep that in mind. How do you ensure the trustworthiness of the VAs? So the VAs are coming to me because they want to earn money, right? And that's kind of the carrot that you're dangling in front of them. It's like, if you want to get paid, you're going to do X, Y, Z. It's just that simple. I'm not going to say this as a concrete statement because you really can't be 100% sure, but I've never ran into somebody who wanted to steal from me an account or anything like that. So that's never been an issue for me. And it's based on a trust system. And by the way, the sites that I use when I hire these virtual assistants, they have a rating system. So if they try to do anything nefarious, like steal my accounts or do anything like that, you got to realize I can give them a terrible review and they're never going to get hired again. Their livelihood is based on this. So if it's not me hiring them, somebody else is going to look to hire them, or they're going to apply to work for someone else, and they're going to see their profile, and that's going to hurt. So that's why they're not motivated to do anything nefarious. All right. How do you train your VAs to understand your brand and design style? So this depends. So brand and design style is a little bit different. For the brand, it's just systems and procedures. Each person has a skill that they're responsible to learn, and they have the tools and they have the training necessary. So they're going to gain that access. In terms of design, I only have one person that I'm working with teaching them design and things like that right now. And they've took the design course. They kind of understand the process, but there are some things that we have to work through a little bit to help them improve. And like I said, the language barrier sometimes creates issues because they're not aware of certain trademarks. They're not aware of certain concepts. So I have to teach them. It's just something that you honestly have to iron out and just work through. But training, the video courses that I created, and just getting on there and speaking with them. Okay. How do you provide specific guidelines or templates? This stuff is in my courses. If anybody listens or anybody's seen my courses, like let's just use the design course, for example. Where is it here? POD design course. This information can be used for Redbubble. It can be used for TeePublic. It can be used for Etsy. It can be used for Society6 and even Zazzle. Not fully for Zazzle, because like I said, Zazzle has this customization type feature, but the I don't want to say the templates, but the frame of thought and the thought processes in these kind of courses is what teaches them exactly what they have to do, and they don't have to break from it. I kind of systematize things. I turn things into a system so it doesn't have to be misconstrued or ununderstood, pretty much, basically, or not understood. Rather, that's the proper English. But yeah, that's kind of what I do. So let me go ahead and erase the questions that I already covered. Do you provide them with specific guidelines or templates? I think we already answered that. Tools and apps. What tools and apps do you use your VAs to streamline the uploading process? So we do all manual uploading. Like I said, there's people who are responsible specifically for tagging, someone who's responsible for titling, someone who's responsible for the art side of things. So in terms of the tools and apps, I'm not using any automation like tools to automate uploading, like a flying upload or something like that. None of that. Manual uploading only. And what tools? I use a lot of tools from Bots and Apps. I use a few other tools, but I'll leave a link in the description to all the tools that we currently use, and you can kind of take a look at how we use them. Courses, I guess you could. I don't know if that's an app. I don't know if you'd consider that an app, but that's kind of what we use. So in terms of training the VAs, we also use Google Drive. That kind of helps, but yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, so let's get rid of that. Are there any specific software or platforms you recommend for managing Okay, that's not something we would need to talk about because, like I said, we already went over it. Google Drive, etc. Let's see. Do your VAs create designs, or do they only handle uploading? So here's the thing. I said this before, but each VA has responsible for a certain thing. I'm not going to have two VAs doing the same thing. One VA is responsible for creating designs, and he's still learning. He's still in the process. But that same person, mind you, used to just download images from the unlimited tool only. So now he's expanding. Now he's doing better. But the uploading from the tool, it's like it makes things so much easier and so much faster. Sorry, I just got a text. Let me check this out. Okay, back to the video. Anyways, so I'll never kind of mix jobs because the guy who's responsible for tagging, I do not want him to worry about designing or anything like that, because I find when you give too much tasks for a VA, they just don't want to work for you anymore. They create terrible jobs, work quality, and they just don't want to do the work. So they're going to come up with an excuse of why they need to leave. I had one VA who was doing great in the beginning, but I piled on him too much work, and he just made basically an excuse about his health, and he just quit. That's basically what it came down to. And a week later, he was looking for somebody else to hire him. So I kind of learned my lesson from there. Don't really pile them on too much. They always have options to go to other people. So, yeah, that's basically what it comes down to. So each person has their own job. if they create designs, how do you ensure that they are unique and not violating copyright? So this is another thing, right? So it's the same process when I create my own designs. When I create my own designs, I know that I'm not violating copyright because I have a basic understanding. Now, some people tell me, aren't you using like trademark search tools? Honestly, I don't. I'm not saying that that's right. Okay, I just want to be clear. I'm not saying that what I'm doing is right. But you have to realize that when I'm uploading to the scale that I'm uploading at, me personally, I can't look at every single design. I can't study every single design. So there's a lot of things that help. Like, for example, the Rocket Tagger tool. This tool, unless the design is copyrighted, there's not going to be a lot of terms that it's going to pick up that is directly copyrighted. Like, for example, if we're creating a certain design, because of the niches that I select for them, there's not going to be a lot of, like, for example, if we're doing something in the shark world, like, sharks, like fish, if we're doing designs there's not going to be a lot of terms, like Dragon Ball Z is not going to come up. You get what I'm trying to say? Like, I'm picking the niches. So by definition, most copyrighted terms are just not going to arise. So that's kind of what kind of helps. Obviously, they have some kind of understanding for IP and trademarks and things like that. But obviously, they don't know everything. And listen, sometimes we do make mistakes. I remember there was like a design we were creating, but it had the lyrics of some song. And that was trademarked. And it was reviewed by Redbubble. And we don't really deal with reviews that much. But this one time it was reviewed and it came back okay because the design wasn't really infringing on anything. It was just using the wrong words, right? So let's go ahead and continue here. Quality control. How do you ensure the quality control of the products listed by your VAs? So once again, with quality control, a lot of their own opinions is not included in the work. So when a person is using a tagger tool or they're using designs from the Unlimited tool and they're pasting them into a paint software or something like that, there's not a lot of personal opinion that goes into that. When you have to do quality control, there's a lot of personal opinion that comes into play. So, for example, if I had a virtual assistant and I said, listen, just upload 30 random designs for me, then I have to do quality control because I'm not giving them a frame of reference to work off of. So like a certain industry to pick, certain keywords to pick, certain designs to pick, they could just reign free. If they're reigning free, then I have to do a lot of quality control. I don't have to do a lot of quality control if the softwares are being used, okay? If the tools are being used and those kind of things, because those kind of things control outcome. You see what I'm saying? So it's just a kind of systemized process that just works really well for me. Do you have a review process in place before products go live? So yeah, the social media person that I have that is the one who's creating content. The social media person, while they're doing the Redbubble favorites and the social media and things like that, they're the last one to get all the information. So they're the ones who are going to see, they're basically the last line of defense. And pretty much if it passes through all 4 people, it's pretty much going to be okay most of the time. Sometimes it's not, but they know, like, don't just upload a picture of Pikachu, for example. I mean, that's just not going to work. They know certain things around trademark. It's not like they're completely, unaware. How do you determine pricing for your products? So once again, pricing just depends on the niche, on the industry, on the design. They've seen a lot of my YouTube videos as training. So one of the videos that I made around pricing, let's just use Redbubble as an example. I made a video about this. And you guys got to realize I have over 1,000 videos on my YouTube channel, and they're responsible for watching videos. And if they don't have the answer to something, they can ask me anytime. And so with pricing, we use the profit margin system. You guys know, like, for example, with Redbubble, if the design is basic, right? It's basic. It's on the same level as everybody else's. Keep it at the default, 20%. If it's slightly better, still keep it at the default because that will give us the advantage over the sale. In terms of competition. But if the design is significantly better, which, by the way, there are some designs that are significantly better that we upload, well, then we increase the margin to about 40%. But that's really it. And that's for Redbubble, concerning Redbubble. As for Etsy, With Etsy, guys, I always look for what are other sellers charging and somewhere charge around there. I don't really, charge too much on Etsy. I'm in the ballpark range of what other people are charging for products. Same thing with Zazzle, TeePublic, you don't really get to choose, things like that. So let's go ahead and keep moving forward. Do your VAs handle pricing, or we already kind of answered that question. How do you keep track of products across multiple POD platforms? That doesn't really matter because I don't keep track of them, because the same product is being uploaded, the same design, because that's what a product is being uploaded across multiple platforms. Like if I have a design that's working on Redbubble, we upload it to TeePublic as well. Okay, that's just what we do. So, yeah, there's no problem of it being uploaded more than once. Are there challenges in managing inventory or designs across different sites? Sometimes the only challenge there is if the design is banned or not allowed or in review or something like that. The only time that will happen is if there's some sort of miscommunication between virtual assistants. But that's it. That's what it comes down to. But they're really quick on communicating with each other, and they have the contact information of each other. So they collaborate, they work together, and it's really not a problem on my end. Now, I just want to say, guys, it's not all hunky-dory. Not everything is perfect. That's why you got to kind of iron out all these things. That's why the extra training, the extra tools, just being available for your virtual assistants, communicating with them consistently, encouraging them with bonuses, things like that. Those are things that motivate them and keep them on the right path. All right, feedbacks and reviews. How do you handle negative reviews or feedback on products uploaded by VAs? So let's just use Etsy, for example, because this is where it's more dominated. If there's a negative review on Etsy, we'll do everything we can with the virtual assistant, not the virtual assistant, the customer, to make them happy. If we got to refund it, we'll do it. If we got to provide them alternative products, we'll do it. Anything we could do to make them happy, we make it happen. Okay? And sometimes I'll just keep it real. Sometimes customers on Etsy, there's nothing wrong with the product at all. They just want to give you a negative review. I actually had that experience quite recently where I asked the person, hey, is there anything we could do? Give you, do anything? He's like, no. I said, all right, so why'd you give us a negative review? And they said, because I want to, and I have the right to do so. And that's fine. It happens. It's just stuff you got to deal with. It's just part of being in business. This is just the price of being in business. You're going to have negative reviews, but anything that goes wrong, we try to learn from it, and I specifically hammer it in my VAs. I say, hey, we got a negative review for this reason. This should have been done. XYZ should have been done. I'll give you a quick example. I had a product on Etsy. It was a virtual product, but they created the folder for the product, but it was never actually uploaded. Like, it wasn't the wrong folder was uploaded on Etsy. Okay, so the right product was never uploaded. And the customer bought the product, downloaded it, and there was nothing there. Instantly gave us a bad review. And we used it as a learning lesson. So now we double check things when they're uploaded to Etsy, just to make sure the product, is there and it's done properly, right? So that's kind of one of the parts to the game. All right, so let's go ahead and get rid of that. Do you have a process for continuous improvement based on customer feedback? We have a process for continuous improvement, which I always keep them watching the content, but not always based on customer feedback, because most of the platforms we use, customer feedback is not part of the equation. Like Redbubble, Zazzle, TeePublic, that's not part of the equation for customer feedback. Only Etsy really is. My own private websites, like my own print-on-demand websites, that has customer feedback to it, but they're not responsible for shipping or anything like that, so they don't worry about that whatsoever. So that has nothing to do with them. All right, let's talk about profitability. This is the good part. How has hiring VAs impacted your profitability? Substantially. It's done very, very well. It's made me more profitable than ever. And more importantly, it's actually helped me scale. So if you're thinking about hiring virtual assistants, it's probably a good idea. But you do have to create your systems in the beginning. You do have to spend some time doing that. And when I say systems, you got to ask yourself, how am I going to train them? How am I going to keep them motivated? How am I going to keep them incentivized? You got to also know what you're going to stand for, meaning some virtual assistants, depending on their personality, might not work well with you. I'll just give you a quick example. I had a virtual assistant that always wanted to get paid more money, but the quality of work was dwindling every single time. And they were just like literally like after a week, they wanted a higher position. They wanted to do different things, more money, higher position, more responsibility, but they weren't even doing their own job well. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So if you want your business to be extremely profitable, you have to make it as easy as possible for your virtual assistants to do well for you. So you got to decrease the amount of challenges that they're going to go through. You have to always be available to them to answer questions. It's tough. It's not easy. And I'll be honest, you kind of have to motivate them to get out of bed and go to work, because some of them just don't want to. And it's almost like you almost have to encourage them to work, which is sad. But you'd be surprised. There's a lot of... I don't know how they survive, because I've never had somebody to pay bills for me. But it's almost like they have somebody taking care of their bills for them. I don't get it. But yeah, it's tough. It's definitely hard. It's just part of the game. I mean, you could be extremely profitable, but you got to create the systems. What percentage of your profits do you allocate to VA salaries? I already spoke about this. Whether I'm profitable or not, the VAs are still getting paid. They get paid first no matter what. They're doing their job, they get paid. And I talked about that already. So let's go ahead and move on. What challenges have you faced in using VAs for POD? How do you overcome them? Okay, a big challenge, just motivating them to work. Some of them, when you create an application, let's say 100 people apply. Out of those 100, maybe 10 are serious to actually work. 20 are serious, maybe if you're really lucky, like 40 or 50 are serious. But, you know, the hard part is you can't really tell unless you give them the opportunity. So I give almost everybody the opportunity through a paid test. And just seeing the people who are going to take the paid test are the ones who are a little bit more serious. So that's kind of how I overcome it. That was a big challenge in the beginning. I didn't know what to do. Right? I was like, how am I supposed to encourage these people to even get started, to even work with me? They say they want to, but when it comes down to it and I tell them what to do to get started, they're not serious. It's almost like they do nothing, almost like they were expecting something. But that's kind of what I do. So I give them a paid exam, and the paid exam is super, super basic. All it is just, do they understand XYZ? After watching a video, do they understand it? And that's it. That's all it comes down to. Any tips for someone considering this approach? Be patient. Create really, really good systems and procedures. Make it easy for your virtual assistants to work for you. I know that sounds sad, but the reality is make it easy. Make it easy for them. Man, what else can I say? I'm trying to think. Trying to think of some tips if you're going to hire a virtual assistant. If you're the type of person that likes to control everything, it might be a little bit hard for you to do that, but it's definitely worth it. I guess that's the biggest tip. It's worth it. Yeah, that's it. I mean, just think of how many times can you duplicate yourself and create the same results you're creating. That's kind of what it comes down to. Let's see. How do you see the role of VAs evolving in the business future? I don't really see it evolving. I mean, unless AI completely takes over everything and we don't need people to work for us anymore and I could just tell a robot to do XYZ. But I think it's going to take some time before that happens. So I can't really think that far into the future. It might be another 2, 3, 5, 10 years. I can't really think that far. So, you know, I'll just worry about today and I'm not going to worry about the future. So, yeah. Are there other areas of your business where you consider using VA? So print on demand was really secondary for me, or really tertiary, if anything. I have blog businesses. Those are the businesses that actually pay my bills. You guys know I have Rocket Web Builder that has VAs. But yeah, I mean, that's really it. And with the conclusion, summarize the key points discussed. So I'll summarize the key points discussed, guys, is basically when you're hiring VAs, the benefits are that it's lower cost, especially if you're going with the Philippines. I recommend Philippines. Like I said, I'll leave a link in the description to the sites that I use to hire these VAs. It's a lot cheaper than going at, other routes. I'll just keep it real. Generally, these people actually want to work, so that kind of helps. And by the way, the sites that I'm recommending, they conquer a lot of the issues. Like finding people that don't want to work or something like that covers a lot of the issues. because that site, a lot of people do want to work on there. If you go to other sites, like I said, like Glassdoor or Indeed, they're very picky. Like, people will come to you and you'll apply and you'll go through the whole entire process. They say they want to work, you give them a job, and then they just ghost you. They just ghost you. I mean, like I said, I don't know how these people pay their bills. I know if I had an opportunity to work for somebody when I needed a job, I would have hopped on it right away. I don't know why these people take too long, but once again, you're dealing with a different demographic. But on the websites, like I said, that I recommend, a lot of those problems tend to vanish. That's kind of the key points. The key points, I mean, have systems, have procedures, give them tools, give them apps. Basically, make their life as easy as possible, to use as less thinking as possible to perform the best result for you as possible. Share any final tips? Final tips is just, you're going to have to get started on it. You're going to have to actually make an investment. I don't recommend anybody who's low on cash to do this. I can't really say, like, if you don't have, I don't know, 5-10 grand saved, I don't see why you would hire a virtual assistant. You should probably just do the work yourself. There's nothing wrong with doing work yourself. Everybody has to do work themselves. Every single person in the world has to. So, yeah. But it's not really costly. It doesn't cost too much. I mean, it's not going to break the bank. Sorry, I had to get a drink. But, yeah, that's what it comes down to. If you guys have any questions, as you can see, I have a whole list of things that, I just went over. If you have any more potential questions that might arise, drop them in the comments down below. I promise in this video, I'll answer every single comment related to this topic. So if you have questions around VAs, ask them. Leave them in the comments down below. And, yeah, I'll see you soon, all right? Hopefully this video really covered everything. I don't know if it did, but, hopefully it did. 46 minutes in. That's a long video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon. All right?